it's somebody weird.
I was thinking that I'll be talking to several newcomers, but this is just a humble suggestion. Since we are all old-timers as such, and we have the good fortune of Dayananda Prabhu here, can we just humbly request His grace to give us a class so that we all are going to be...
You want Dayananda to speak? Dayananda Prabhu to speak?
Yes.
I don't know. What do you think, Dayananda Prabhu? Are you ready? We're kind of putting you on the spot. Are you?
Well, when I speak, I normally prepare. So are you telling me that you're not prepared, Sri Devi?
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying I was prepared for newcomers. That means I kept it very basic and very simple. My whole presentation was going to be very, very just absolutely 101, you know. But now I see that we are all, you know, we are not newcomers over here. We have Harita, Bhagwan Narada, Naradi, myself, and your grace. So it would be so nice to hear something from you. And it doesn't have to be this topic. We could hear memories of Srila Prabhupada. We could hear some nice, you know, the early days of Los Angeles Temple or something that would enliven and uplift everybody, because now we are no longer worrying about newcomers, because there's no newcomers now.
I was expecting a couple, but it looks like they flaked out.
Why don't you give your talk first and then I'll say something. How's that?
Okay, all right.
Oh, here's my microphone. I forgot.
Okay. So basically, Bhagwan Narada Prabhu asked me to speak on what is Guru. And I chose this particular verse to explain what is Guru. I wanted us to all understand that when we want to learn about the absolute truth, know the absolute truth, then we have to approach the person who has seen the absolute truth. So I chose this particular verse of Bhagavad Gita 4:34. And Bhagwan Narada, would you screen share that particular verse for all of us so we can read it?
Sure.
Right?
Sorry, my mouse is acting up these days.
Should I screen share? I have it.
I got it.
Okay. Great.
Share screen. Okay, how's that?
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Thank you. So we have this really wonderful verse where so nicely Srila Prabhupada explains. So I would like us to read this verse. It goes like this. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord Himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. The Bhagavatam 6:3-19 says, Dharmam tu sakshad bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path, nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master. And when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind toward the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So my humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I humbly request all of you to bless me so that I can speak something that is spiritually enlightening, and meaningful for all of us. So here Srila Prabhupada minces no words. He straight away says, the path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. Srila Prabhupada also has said that the spiritual life is like razor's edge. Just like a razor, shaving one little false move and you get cut. So like that, this is a very straight and narrow path, as they say. Even in the description is straight and narrow. So therefore, how should we traverse this? We need the help of a bona fide spiritual master. And bona fide, what is the meaning of bona fide? There are so many so-called spiritual masters. This one says he's spiritual master. That one says he's spiritual master. Who is a bona fide spiritual master is he who comes down in the disciplic succession from the Lord himself. So no one can just claim to be a spiritual master, because next question we can say, okay, which sampradaya do you belong to? Who is your spiritual authority? What is your philosophy? Srila Prabhupada was like that. He immediately would ask, what is his philosophy? When someone would put forward something, he would say, what is his philosophy? So like this, when we want to know the absolute truth, when we want to actually approach the absolute truth, we need the guidance of the pure devotee of the Lord coming down in the disciplic succession. Simply just manufacturing something will not give us the fruit. Just as, let's say, I want to become a medical doctor. Can I go to the medical shop, buy all the medical books, sit at home, read the books, and then say, yes, I have now studied all the books, I'm a medical doctor, I'm going to hang out my shingle? No one is going to come, because I have not got the training. I have not got the practical experience. I have not learned clinical signs and symptoms of disease. I don't know how to treat. I'm claiming just reading this book, I know everything. So Srila Prabhupada says here, mental speculation, dry arguments, manufacturing one's own process, all this will not work. This is the society of cheaters and cheated if we fall for such unbona fide so-called spiritual masters who claim to be spiritual masters, but they cannot even control their senses. They're carried away by the waves of sensual pleasures, and before we know it, they're caught in some scam, some scandal, some this, some that, and they're behind bars in disgrace. So we don't want to be fooled by these so-called people who manufacture things, or a thin air, they'll produce some ash and some gold and some this and some that. This is just manipulation of the material energy, that's all. It's just some mystic powers. But if we want to approach God, Krishna himself, then we must follow the process given by God himself, given by Krishna himself. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The process given by Krishna himself. And what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Finally, Krishna tells Arjuna, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma suchaha. Surrender, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. And Krishna sends his pure devotee just to save us, just to bring us back to the spiritual path, just to take us back to the spiritual world where we actually belong. This material body is actually a diseased condition of life. We are not meant to suffer from birth, old age, diseases, death over and over and over again as we have been doing.
I think, sorry, Gary, is this your first time joining us? You can type if you can't speak. It's all right. I think we have somebody that's here for the first time.
Okay. Hello, Gary. Welcome to our Sunday Feast lecture.
Anyway, just wanted to welcome him. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. You're welcome to stop at any time and ask questions. We are just having a little discussion. We're elaborating on this particular verse of Bhagavad Gita. It's from the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 34. And we're just talking about how to advance on the spiritual path, how to make progress on the spiritual path. And that is by approaching the pure spiritual master, the pure devotee of the Lord, and satisfying him. How will we satisfy the spiritual master? Shall we bring a big check of $100,000 presented to him and say, oh, spiritual master, please, here's this check. Now immediately make me a self-realized soul? No. Can we offer him a big position in some board of directors somewhere? No, that's not going to work. Nothing material can move the spiritual master. What will satisfy the spiritual master is devotional service, and satisfying the spiritual master by humbly inquiring from him how to serve the Lord, and satisfying him is the key to success. Every morning we sing in the beautiful prayers to the spiritual master, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado yasya prasadan nagati kutopi dhyayanstuvam stasya yashastri sandhyam vande guru shri charanarvindam. That means the meaning of these beautiful prayers is only by satisfying the spiritual master that we can make progress and we can approach the Supreme Lord. And without satisfying the spiritual master, no success is possible. So we want to approach one who has seen the absolute truth, who knows the absolute truth, who is in direct touch with the absolute truth, and who is a transparent via medium for the Lord to transmit his instructions to the soul, who is struggling in this material existence, trying very hard to become happy, but being baffled at every twist and turn. Which one of us doesn't want to be happy? We all want to be happy. We all want to be in bliss. We all want to be joyful, but we are looking for it in the wrong place. And because of that illusion, we are baffled again and again. We are frustrated and we end up feeling, what is this? I'm trying so hard and nothing is happening. But when we approach the pure devotee of the Lord and he guides us in spiritual life, we actually begin to realize our real, true, blissful nature, because that is who we really are. We are spirit soul, more brilliant than a million suns, blissful, joyful, full of knowledge and eternal. So we can access more and more of our own divinity, of our own divine essence, which is the nature of the spirit soul, loving, giving, caring, sharing, completely joyful simply by giving, because that is the nature of the soul. So that's my little 2 cents on this topic. The verse goes like this. I'll read the translation again. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. The key words here is submission, service, and inquiry. So we want to be very, very cognizant that this is a very elevated personality. You cannot buy him, you cannot manipulate him, you cannot influence him with your own ideas. He is above the transcend. He is above the material plane. He's completely situated in transcendence, which means he's above the modes of material nature. And only one who is free can set you free. A man who is bound, hands and legs shackled, how can he release you from the shackles of being bound by the modes of material nature? It's not possible. So we want to take shelter of the pure devotee, follow the instructions, inquire from him submissively, as well as render service unto him. And by satisfying him, we can make our advancement very, very nicely towards the goal of life, attaining pure love for Krishna, and become joyful, happy, remain healthy, avoid the anxieties and the travails and tribulations of facing the material energy alone, and make our way back home, back to Godhead. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we can open up for questions, discussion, anything anybody would like to say, and then we can humbly request Dayananda Prabhu also to enlighten us.
He left.
Oh, this Gary person left?
Your mic's not on.
Gary was Harry again. He's the same
Oh,
guy. He's just being a weirdo. I don't know. He doesn't want to, you know. He
Yeah.
was laughing earlier and stuff. I didn't like it. Anyway, sorry.
no, we have to get ready for all these things, you know. Now this is what is happening. So it's always good to be cautious like this.
I mean, it doesn't take much just to say who you are. So I just feel very weird about all that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I like what you said about, you know, we can't just offer the guru a bunch of money or some position or anything material. We have to offer something spiritual to the guru or the spiritual master. And you know, it can become very difficult because, you know, we're not getting certain outcomes. Or I know for me personally, I've gone through my own difficulties where, you know, at the end of the day, who else is there left to blame, right? You don't want to blame yourself. So then you start thinking, well, maybe my guru's not giving me enough shelter. I mean, these thoughts have come through. I've never really enacted on it, but it's a difficult situation at times because we're actually dependent on someone, right? That's actually has pure intentions for us. And we're so used to being, you know, dependent on people and being hurt by them, but to understand that our spiritual master or our guru or our teacher has 100%, you know, is 100% clean, has no material motive behind us for us other than to just help us get closer to Krishna. So sometimes where I find it can become most challenging is when the guru is testing me, or when your spiritual master is testing you. It almost feels like they're inflicting pain upon you, you know? It almost feels like they're taking advantage of you. These are thoughts that I've had in the past. Maybe I'll have them again in the future, but it almost feels like the spiritual master doesn't care, but they're performing that surgery or that much needed operation that is, you know, getting rid of those things in the heart that we may not see at that time. So I think those are the times for me where I've had my biggest struggles in my relationship with my guru, my teacher, my mentor, father figure. But once you overcome those difficulties or those challenges, I'd like to say those challenges that are being put before you, especially as you get in deeper in Krishna consciousness, it makes the relationship and the bond much stronger. And you always come out on the other end saying like, oh, okay, that's why my guru kind of put me in that situation and made me apologize to that person, or made me tolerate this relationship with this other person, or he gave me this weird responsibility that I don't feel I can do. but I've actually, I'm coming out on the other end, and I'm actually laughing about it now. And I'm actually understanding how I grew from that, because it's not something that I would have put ahead of myself. There's no way I would have put that responsibility on my own shoulders. So I think as I'm speaking, I'm realizing that those moments of challenge and test by the Guru are the ones that I've struggled with the most, but at the end of the day, had the most appreciation for more than any other relationship in the world. So the Guru's there to just kind of, could someone add something about challenges that the spiritual master will place in front of the disciple to test their sincerity?
I can say for sure that my spiritual master has given me many bitter pills to swallow, many bitter pills to swallow. And at times I would be like so angry. I would be so angry. I said, again, I'm hearing the same thing. I want to hear something different. I want to hear what I want to hear. But no, the same answer. Chant your rounds, follow the process, etc. And I would, after that initial, all those emotions that I went through, finally I would swallow the pill. And then, as you said, after it was over, I came out better from following that instruction. And so I realized that that's actually good for me. What seems like a very bitter pill has actually made me better in the process of taking that medicine. So yes, we are very conditioned by so many lifetimes of being in this material world. We think we know what is to be done, how it's to be done, when it's to be done, why it's to be done. But the spiritual master has divine vision. And so his instructions are perfect because he's speaking on behalf of Krishna. So now I have understood that however unpalatable it may be, it is actually good for me and I'm going to come out better. But it has taken a long time to reach this point. I have gone through the gamut of all kinds of, emotions of not accepting, arguing, and so on and so forth. So it's a process where you understand after a while that this person is only trying to help you get better. And you're very blessed to have such a person who is not going to be shaken by all your arguments, by all your, nonsense ideas, who is firmly fixed in absolute truth that he can guide you back home, back to God. And it's such a blessing actually to have this kind of a firm, steady person who is not going to be swayed by anything you can come up with to make things better. So I'm very humbled by how much my Guru Maharaj has been patient and tolerant and kind and loving towards me, though I have not been an easy disciple to handle.
And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of others too, simultaneously. It's impressive. I was thinking as you were speaking too, like, you have a parent that will strictly discipline their child, and sometimes the child may rebel, but later on the child more than likely comes out on the other side of things successful, stable. And then you have these other parents that are just totally neglectful, or they just let their children run over them and boss them around. And then how do they end up? They end up spoiled. They end up with all these mental issues or whatever it may be. So I was thinking, like, that's the role of our teachers, of our spiritual masters, is to not let us get outside of those lines, so that way we can have that correct discipline when something does happen and they're not around. I don't know, just a few.
Prabhupada quotes from Chanakya Pandit in that regard. Chanakya says, Tarana Bhavo Guna, Lalna Bhavo Dosha. Guna means good quality. So tada means strictness, and lalana, by lala, one gets dosha. Dosha means bad qualities. So Prabhupada said that the teachers and the parents and the gurus, they should be strict. But then how to be strict? Two ways. One is on the basis of affection. If strictness doesn't work without, if the person that you're being strict with doesn't feel affection, or love, if the parents or guru or teacher doesn't love the the dependent, then it doesn't work. The discipline doesn't work. And the other thing that's required is example, that the guru, teacher, parent has to set an example. So that's my input on that. I have a couple of things to say about guru. Can I do that? You wanted to know about, or you wanted me to speak a little bit about Prabhupada. So first of all, there's this, I was just looking online and I was remembering that I get these daily Prabhupada Leela little email that describes what Prabhupada did on this particular day in sometime during the 10 years he was here. So for example, today on the 20th of September, he did such and such. So here's just a couple of paragraphs from a lecture that Prabhupada gave on January 1st, 1967. Now, January 1st was just a few months after Prabhupada gave his first initiations. And I was just reading the other day that after he gave the first initiation, he cooked a feast, nice prasad, all by himself. He cooked a feast, and then he initiated everyone, did the fire sacrifice. Everyone left, and he cleaned up everything himself. So that was the situation in the beginning, and Prabhupada gradually explained. I think that, as a matter of fact, the next day after everyone was initiated, Prabhupada posted a little sign or a notice that everyone who's initiated should treat the guru like God. You have to be respectful of the guru. So in the beginning, that wasn't there. So here in this lecture in January 1st, this was before Prabhupada went to his second temple, before he left New York to go to San Francisco. So there was only the one temple in New York. So he also quotes this verse. He says, the process is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidhi pranipatena paripashnena sebaya. If you want to understand, these are Prabhupada's words. If you want to understand that transcendental science, then you have to follow this principle. What is that? Tadvidhi pranipatena. You have to surrender. So just like nimanta eva, unless you become submissive, you cannot be a surrendered soul. And where pranipata, where will you find a person that here is a person where I can surrender? That means we have to make a little test where to surrender. So that much knowledge you must have. Don't surrender to any nonsense. And how that intelligence or nonsense can be found out, that is also mentioned in the Shastra. That is mentioned in the Katha Upanishad. Tadvidhi pranipatena. Katha Upanishad says that Tadvijnanatam sagrum eva bhigachet shrotrayam brahmanishtam. So he describes shrotrayam means that one who is coming in disciplic succession. And what is the proof that he is coming under this disciplic succession? Brahmanishtam. Brahmanishtam means he is fully convinced about the supreme absolute truth. So there you have to surrender, pranipata. So that's an interesting description of Shrotriyam and Brahmanishtam. Shrotriyam, in general, Shrotriyam means well-versed in the Shastras. So Prabhupada explains, in this case, well-versed in the Shastras, also coming in the disciplic succession. And just like Prabhupada sometimes gives a different kind of explanation for steps in our process. There's a famous verse, ado shraddha sadhu sangha tata bhajana kriya. So that means in the beginning there's some faith, then association with sadhus, with devotees, and then bhajana kriya. So technically that means bhajana kriya means kriya means to do, and bhajan means to do your service, to your bhajan, your sadhana. So Prabhupada translates that. He also indicates that means initiation. So you don't just willy-nilly go on to the next phase, nishta. So here also, Shrotriyang, not just well-versed in the Shastra, but coming in the disciplic succession. And then he says, what's the indication that he's coming in disciplic succession? Brahmanishtam. Now, Brahmanishtam means fixed in Brahma. That means being self-realized, understanding that one is a spirit soul and one's position is in relation to the Supreme, and one is, the nature of the soul is servant. So servant of the Supreme. But here Prabhupada says, what is the indication he's coming in the disciplic succession? He's Brahmanishtam. He's fixed in the knowledge of the supreme absolute truth. The other thing I was thinking about, this tattva jnana, that tadvidhi pranipasena pariprashnena seva upadekshanti te jnanam tattva darshana. So you have to, as Sri Devi pointed out in this verse, that you have to approach a guru tadvidhi, to get that knowledge. And of course you have to read the chapter 4 to understand a little better about what knowledge is being spoken of. Tadvidhi means that knowledge. You have to approach the tattvadarshis, the people who see the truth. So this truth, according to our understanding, the knowledge is divided into 3 categories. And one is theoretical, is a little passive. The other is active, avidya. So you don't get knowledge without practice. That's not real knowledge. It's not just something theoretical. There are many, there's one great scholar, I don't know if he's still alive, Professor Hopkins. Even before Prabhupada came to the US, he was specialized in Srimad Bhagavatam. He's an expert in Bhagavatam. He's a very old man now. But always a friend of the devotees. So people like that, they're people who, he's a very nice man, but he doesn't practice devotional service. He's an expert in Bhagavat, but what's the point? You have to come to the second stage of knowledge, which is to practice. So therefore Prabhupada called it devotional service. Bhakti, you could translate it as devotion, but Prabhupada translates it as devotional service. Service gives that active component, explains the active component. So what is the responsibility then of the disciple? Of course, we heard pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. These are in the instrumental case, means by pranipat, by surrender, by seva, by service, and pariprashna, by inquiring. So there is another verse that Prabhupada, that inspired Prabhupada before he came to the West. And one would think that, one would not necessarily think that that verse indicates being devoted to the Guru, but I think that it's mentioned by Baldev Vidyabhushan that indicates being surrendered to the Guru. It's Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahushakha yanantascha buddhyo vyavasayana. So that the meaning of that verse is that you have to have a single pointed focus. You have to be singularly devoted, in other words, to the Supreme and to the Guru. So Prabhupada was inspired by that verse and to redouble his focus on the order of his Guru to come to the US. Now you were asking about, or you were talking about the Guru giving tests. One of the appreciations I've always had about Prabhupada, if you listen to his different disciples, you hear different sort of stories or appreciations of Prabhupada's qualities. One of the qualities that I always appreciated was that when his disciples were near to him, of course, after the movement progressed, he had many disciples, and he depended on the leaders that had already come, the seniors, to manage the juniors. So they didn't necessarily get a lot of intimate connection with him. But with those who came in direct contact with Prabhupada, he had the ability to ask for services that exceeded the ability of his disciples. So he seemed to expect, maybe not necessarily expect, but he would engage his disciples in services that went beyond their ability to do them. For example, right in the beginning, there was no book distribution, there were no books, there was no street sankirtan, no chanting on the streets. And so Prabhupada, maybe he could have just initiated disciples, and he could have said, well, you just chant Hare Krishna and chant your 16 rounds, or try to do a little service, or worship deities at home, or something like this, some kind of innocent service. But no, he said to his disciples repeatedly, open temples. I want you to open a temple. So at that time, it just meant go to a city and have a house or rent some sort of storefront or something like this, rent a shop and hold kirtans and do other classes, kirtans and classes, invite people, and maybe go to the park. At that time, in New York, there was kirtan in the park, and then San Francisco, kirtan in the park. We had kirtan in the park in Los Angeles, other cities also. So this was for young people. We were 18, 19, 20, 21, up to 25, maybe. The old man was 30. So we had to go to cities, and we had never been to certain places. Some devotees had never been to outside of the United States. So one of my friends, Burijan and Jagatarni was an actress from Australia. So she came to the US, to Los Angeles. Then she was asked to marry Burijan. It's a completely opposite people, but they went to Hong Kong and other places in the Far East, and devotees were sent to Germany. And one young man, he was 18 years old, Krishnadas, and Prabhupada put him in charge of Germany, and he made him GBC of Germany. So you can imagine he's supposed to go to Germany, start a temple there, doesn't speak German, and he's 18 years old, and Prabhupada says, and not only that, you go to Germany, open a center, and I want you to be one of the main leaders of my movement, and your responsibility is Germany. So these are the kinds of services that I experienced. And I have a friend who came to the movement much later in 1975, I guess. Very good friend. And I keep trying to do something that's a little beyond my ability, or a little, I don't know, something significant. And he's very scholarly. He's very strict about reading Bhagavatam. He's always quoting verses to me. And so then he says, you know, I didn't have that same kind of relationship in the movement. He says, I don't have the same drive to do something big. But I think Prabhupada really encouraged that to people, and it's service, and it's a movement of expanding and taking on responsibility. Maybe I've gone on too long here. So I'll just say one anecdote, maybe. One big turning point for me was in San Francisco when I first joined. I was 21 years old, and Prabhupada was, at that time, of course, he had some disciples already. They were initiated. And then I think there had already been 1 or 2 initiations before I got there. He was very quick to initiate. If somebody wanted to be initiated, immediately they were initiated. So he was giving this kind of lecture that you have to accept the spiritual master. He would say that, just like Sri Devi said, that I believe you said this, that if there's in any material discipline, you have to accept a professor. You have to go to the university and understand the branch, the science or the knowledge. So spiritual life is like that. Prabhupada would speak like that. Then one day he was saying in the morning, I went to the morning class, he said, you have to accept a spiritual master. In your life, you have to accept authority. You have to accept some authority. In every turn, you have to accept authority. So it better be spiritual. It's better that it be spiritual authority. At that time, at 21, I had just been in the military for 3 years. And I thought, okay, never again will I accept anyone's authority. I was very rebellious, and I thought, so this idea was just agonizing to me. And I was just, after I left the lecture, I was just debating. I like this man, he's very nice, but he's telling me something that I just have a lot of trouble accepting. So I was really going back and forth in my mind, saying, I don't want to accept anyone's authority. This is a ridiculous proposition for me. Then I was thinking, well, but this is, I like this very much, and I should listen to him. And so back and forth I was going. And then in front of me, then the light changed. I was walking back to my apartment. The light changed, and I stopped for the red light and waited for the light to change back to green. And I thought, I'm accepting the authority of the red light. And then I realized that everywhere in my life, I'm accepting some kind of an authority. Somehow this idea of the red light just pierced through my obstinacy. So that was a personal milestone for me. And as I said, Prabhupada was, just as you see from this quote, January 1st, he was speaking like this about gurus. And then he continued to emphasize that we had to accept the guru. And this is the way that we did, we accepted. And then we told the others that we took charge of others, and we told them they had to accept the guru. And then because Prabhupada was the emissary of Krishna, we were the emissary of Prabhupada. So those who were GBC and temple president, they were acting on behalf of Prabhupada. So everyone in the temple, they had to accept the authority of the temple president or the GBC. So it was very much kind of like a military organization in some ways. And then some of us were comfortable with that, who had just been in the military. Satsvarup was the Trivikram and myself and a few others. And then the other leaders, they somehow became accustomed. Tamal Krishna Maharaj and others had the ability to organize men. Hansaduta, he was in the military and he organized men. So in this way, there were a lot of teams and temples where everyone was working very cooperatively, and based on that authority. And Prabhupada even says in one place in the Bhagavad Gita that devotional service is something like military discipline, where you have to act when given the order by the spiritual master. So not exactly so many stories about Prabhupada. There's some nice, I recommend getting that book. Sri Devi, did you get that book? It's only $10 if you read on Kindle. I think it's $20 in paperback. Maybe a little more they charge in paperback. It's a submission by 100 or 200 women, an awful lot of women. It's alphabetized. And it starts with the A's and so forth. And of course, a lot of these women, they didn't really have such direct contact with Prabhupada. One woman I read, she used to clean Prabhupada's rooms while he was out on his walk, and she relates some of her something in there. And there's others who had much more relation with Prabhupada, like Yamuna, although hers is published posthumously. She passed away, but Yamuna is in there, and of course Malati is in there. Malati did a lot of direct service for Prabhupada. When I joined the movement in 1967, Malati and I are about the same age. She was 21. And she immediately took charge of prasad distribution. We were distributing maybe 30 plates every day, both breakfast, some oatmeal, and lunch, dal, rice, so forth. every day. So she was taking charge of that. And one time she stood up and complained. She says, the only two people who are really supporting this are Shamsundar and Jayananda. So everyone should donate. So she was in charge of doing the service and trying to collect the money and everything, that Malati. And then Yamuna, of course, people know who she is, many people. And the others, Rukmini was only 16 when she joined. And yet she became, over the years, she's become one of the leaders of the movement. She's currently on the board of directors in the Bhakti Center in New York. And her husband is Anuttama, he's the GBC. And so many devotees. Jagatarni, she was an actress in Australia as a young woman. And then she came to Los Angeles. Today, her husband is Burjan. He's one of the gurus in ISKCON. And she, of course, is a senior member, very wise. So all these women, you can read their contact with Prabhupada and their impressions of Prabhupada. I recommend this book.
Thank you. I'm going to order that book. I don't want to just have it online on Kindle. I want to actually have a hard copy. So I'm going to order that book. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else have any comments or questions or anything they'd like to add to the discussion? Farsane joined us and Shashi just joined us too a little while ago.
Yeah, I'd like to know what Harita and Shashidhar and Farzani have to say on this topic, if they have any questions.
We especially want to hear from Farsane because she's our long lost friend. We haven't heard from her in a while. Hi, Farzane.
Hi, Hare Krishna. How are you, everybody?
Hare Krishna, Farzane. Good to hear
Hare
you.
Krishna. I'm sorry for being up, not showing up for a long time.
No problem, no problem. How have you been? How's everything going?
It's going. That's all I can say. It's very busy at work and school, all of that. So, but hopefully, I'll be fine by the end of this year. So we shall see. Yeah.
End of the year. The school is finished?
I'm hopeful.
And what? You'll have a master's degree then, end of the year?
Yes. School pretty much done, and hopefully my immigration stuff will be settled by end of the year. So, yeah.
Heel goed.
Heel goed, Are. Yeah, but yeah, I'm sorry for being not present, and yeah, it's all my fault.
Ah,
We're just happy to have you, Farzane. Don't even
Thank
worry
you.
about it. We're happy to
Thank
have
you
you.
so much.
Keep joining
Thank
again and again, please. We miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too. Hope Corona goes away soon, and so we can get together like before.
Yes. I was just thinking that when Bhagwan Narada Prabhu was singing in the Kirtan, singing, oh, how much I miss Naradi and Bhagwan Narada. How I wish I could be at this moment there with them. It was such a,
I know.
just missing them so much. I really love being in San Antonio with all of you. I just can't wait to get there.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah, wonderful. Any
Shashi,
comments?
you want to say anything, or Harita wants to say anything on this topic? What did you all think? I mean, we talked about so many different aspects. We talked about that verse, then Dayananda Prabhu expounded at length about Srila Prabhupada's instructions, his empowerment of his disciples, how young 18-year-olds were just sent off to open a temple and become leaders and so on. So what are your thoughts? Like, we are now in the movement for over 60 years. The first generation of disciples now are our gurus, and here we are trying to learn so much. What do you think?
Uh, I don't have anything to add. I just know it's very hard, and I can't imagine like a 18-year-old being in charge of Germany, I believe. Um, it needs a lot of sacrifices, I think.
Yes, very true, very true. They completely,
Yeah.
we have ISKCON today because they completely gave their lives to Prabhupada. They just love Prabhupada so much that they completely gave their lives to him. It's just
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
That level of surrender, sacrifice, love, dedication, commitment. I mean, if someone had approached me when I was in medical, said, hey, get out of medical college, join Krishna's, I would say, what? Are you out of your mind? I'm not going to do that,
Yes.
I
Yes.
did that. In fact,
That's
my
true.
classmates, they became disciples of Radhanath Maharaj, and they have all come together and started Bhakti Vedanta Hospital. A book is being written about Bhakti Vedanta Hospital, how it's such a shining example of Varnashram Dharma, where all the doctors are continuing their profession and they are devotees. And the whole hospital is completely run as a temple almost. They have classes every day in the temple, in the lobby. Then Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra are not driven, they have a car on wheels, and they taken from bed to bed to give their darshan to all the patients with prasadam. It's just amazing, this hospital. It's just amazing. I've been there. Went for a checkup, and it is absolutely awesome. And people going over there are all communities: Muslims, Christians, Parsis, Jains, Sikhs, everyone. And they all say how loving the atmosphere is, how caring the people are, and how different this hospital is from any other. So, we can do a lot of things with you young professionals. There is no bar. It doesn't mean you have to give up your education or give up your profession. We just have to dovetail everything in Krishna consciousness. And in fact, I believe that this generation, you young people, you all can just come together and do so much more, take the movement forward so much more than even we can. That's my belief.
So where is this hospital, Mataji?
This hospital is in Meera Road, Maharashtra, about 1.5 hours from main Bombay, like from the airport. If you have to go, it's about an hour and a half. It's Meera Road, and it is being run by doctors. There are doctors the doctors are devotees, the nurses are devotees, many of the staff personnel are devotees. It's like completely devotee-run hospital. They're so caring, so caring. It's unbelievable.
Wow, nice to hear about it.
Yes, yes, very nice to see.
One thing like I want to say on this Guru Parampara, like the thing as of now, like I virtually see lot of Gauranga Das Prabhu on Hare Krishna. It's he who has inspired me a lot, because literally I did not have a particular guru who is preaching me, because I did not the place where I lived in US, I did not like it was Maine, so I don't have any temples, ISKCON temples nearby. So it was Hare Krishna channel, it was Gauranga Das Prabhu, and through him I could know more about Srila Prabhupada and this ISKCON movement. But basically knowing about this Hare Krishna channel was also through one of my cousin who is already into ISKCON. So through that, but literally I did not get any chance to like serve a guru, but maybe in future when I will be in contact with the temple and all, so I will have the same experience what you people had. Uh, but yes, what Srila Prabhupada has done to bring up this moment as a guru is extraordinary. And I see like like I read various books wherein how the disciples respect their gurus in the past, in the Puranas, is really awesome. And Srila Prabhupada has brought that discipline here. That's what I see. Like I read few stories related to like one of the avatars of Vishnu, that is Dattatreya. And there also in his stories, I read that how a guru is so important in everyone's life, and how a guru can inspire a person, and how he can elevate the soul of that person. So that really like when I read that stories, I really feel like Srila Prabhupada has done that, bring that discipline. That's what I want to share.
Thank you, Harita. And Shashidhar has shared a very nice verse, that beautiful, famous one about parampara. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu sa kale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. And so Srila Prabhupada has come to give us the science and help us to just go back home, back to Krishna, where we belong actually. My dear father is going through a very difficult time, and I can just see how that's why Srila Prabhupada says, don't take birth again, you know. Old age is so difficult, fraught with so many bodily ailments, and at that time it is so hard to think, you know. So if we have not practiced Krishna consciousness throughout life, suddenly now at the last minute to chant the holy name, think of Krishna, this, that, it's just very, very difficult. I mean, I'm just watching and I'm just saying, okay, Krishna, he's your child. What can I do? I tried my best and the rest is in your hands, like that. So if we take it seriously, then the mercy of the Guru will be there to save us at the time of death. But if we take it, you know, oh, okay, it's one more thing, you know, in year one, out the other year, then we are literally on our own. And when the time of death comes, it's going to be extremely difficult to overcome the fear, the panic, the scriptures describe that the soul leaving the body, it's like being stung by hundreds of scorpions or some description like that, which is very horrifying because you're so attached to the body even at that time, and your soul is trying to separate from it, is the most difficult thing. So what we have been given is a great benediction, a priceless gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us, and it behooves each one of us to take it very seriously, practice it very sincerely, and then help others, especially those born in the holy land of India. Bharat bhumite manushya janma hoilo jar, janma sarthak kari karo para upkar. Give this knowledge to others, practice this Krishna consciousness and give this knowledge to others. This is the greatest need of the hour, and it's the greatest duty of every Indian, so that the world can be saved from a most horrendous, situation. As it is, it's very difficult. And imagine if we don't try our level best to spread this knowledge, what darkness is awaiting more and more. So we really have to practice it and then spread this movement everywhere, whatever little bit way we can. Thank you. Okay, I guess you want to wrap up, Bhagwan Narada Prabhu, because we spent quite a bit of time on this topic.
Sure, sounds good. Thank y'all so much.
I just
we're not
wanted to mention, you're talking about especially Indians, Bharata Bhumite Janma. Well, but Iran also, they're also Arya. The Indians and the Iranians are also Aryan.
Yeah, I mean, Indian subcontinent, you can say all of that area actually.
Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Anarya Jushtam Asvargyam, Akirti Karam Arjuna. He says to Arjuna that this is not, you shouldn't act like this because this is not Aryan. So that the people of that area are Aryans. That
Right.
means they're cultured people.
Right.
Aryan doesn't mean racial or something. It means, it indicates culture.
Hmm.
So,
Thank you for that correction.
so
That's
that's, no, not correction. I was just trying to include Vardhane just to
yes,
explain
yes.
that.
Encourage. Yes, she comes from that same.
Thank you.
Yes, Aryan. True. Thank you.
And then from there we'll work around the world, okay?
Okay. Actually, anyone who knows the science of Krishna, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Shudra, what is that? Kiba Vipra, Kiba Shudra. That particular verse where Lord Chaitanya says, you know, what does it matter? Shudra, Brahmana, whoever knows the science of Krishna, he can become guru. And
What's
say,
it? Tattva, how's it go? Kiba Nyasi, Kiba Vipra, Kiba
Shudra ke liye nae,
Jai Krishna
tattva
Say
veta se guru hoy.
Guru Hoy, yeah. So if you know Krishna, then become a guru.
Right, that's it. It doesn't really matter. But I was just quoting that particular scripture to encourage, to remind myself more than anything else how seriously we must take it. Shashidhar has come online. You want to say something, Shashidhar?
I don't think he's.
Okay.
Shashi, can you hear us? Unmute.
Yeah, he's chatting. He said, no, not as of now, Mata.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for everything. Hari Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you all very
Hare
much.
Krishna.
My humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Gurudev.
Jai.